The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are speakers plus authors informing the audience. They do not reflect or represent views and opinions held by this podcast. Due to the nature of broadcasting this podcast, it may contain a copyrighted entity of a person. This podcaster does not own any rights to this music and their content. This podcaster cannot be held accountable for any copyrighted content. This channel is a messenger and sharer of information and strives to verify, but not warrant, the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information. If there is a complaint about something, whether the content is being used incorrectly, please contact the podcaster directly before making a copyright claim. Any infringement was not done on purpose and will be rectified to all parties' satisfaction.
All my friends know the low rider. The low rider is a little higher.
Yo, what is up, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the Next Chapter of Sports with the Augie Way right here, wearing my Bulls jersey and the Bulls hat, along with the other guy with the Bulls hat, Francisco.
Yeah, what's up, guys? It's great to be back to another episode, and it's not just another episode. We got my boy Miguel Esparza here today.
What's going on, guys? Well, thank you for having me. Absolutely. I see you guys wearing the Bulls gear, which is good. I got my Bulls hat on, too. I was like, let me make sure that we're uniform here.
Es un placer de tenerte aquí en el podcast en el próximo capítulo de Deportes, and it's just so amazing to see that we got another broadcaster on our end. We met back, you guys, just a little story short, for those of you que no saben, we met at the Bears draft party back last year in April, and man, it was a great experience. So for those of you college students, or those of you trying to get like new opportunities, go to these events, go to these networking events, because you never know who you're going to encounter.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Augie said, it was a great event. I was able to meet a lot of people. I met Miguel. I was able to talk more with Miguel Lemus as well, who's also someone who works at the Bears, sports writer for Chicago Tribune. Just a lot of connections and on networks and a lot of relationships you're able to create. So really take advantage of those opportunities. Like we'll talk more in the podcast. In this industry, you really can never say no because you can never say no to anything. Everything you have to take advantage of it all.
Is there anything that Miguel wants to like chime in just a little bit?
No. Look, I agree with you guys. You know, anytime you have those type of events available, take advantage. It's one of those things that at the end of the day, this business that we're in is about creating relationships, and if you can do that and just grow your network, and especially when organizations like the Chicago Bears are putting these people in front of you guys, you know, you take advantage of that 100%.
And not just like the Bears and specifically, I know like other teams do it as well, like the Carolina Panthers. That's my team. I know, but I'm just representing the Chicago Bulls tonight, and some other teams as well. So let's get started with our very special guest, Miguel Esparza. Tengo entendido, and some sources say that you didn't want to be a broadcaster. You wanted to become a singer. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct. I wanted to be a singer. And never in my mind did I see myself broadcasting. It wasn't a thing that I set a goal. It wasn't a dream of mine. It just kind of fell in my lap in my process of wanting to become a singer or a professional singer, because I am a singer. I'm just not a professional singer.
That's really cool. That's absolutely cool. I sing, but I don't sing like as like a living and stuff because it does take time, especially like when you're trying to go pro and all that. It's
Right.
And for you to like play guitar, that's just even better.
Oh man, I love the guitar just because it helps you express a little bit more, right? It's one of those when you just want to have, like, for example, for me, that I work a lot, and the free time that I have, I'll do a couple of things, whether it's grabbing my guitar and playing a couple of tunes, or going outside and taking my telescope out and just looking up in the sky. Those are the little things that I do to keep my sanity.
Oh, that's definitely really good. Speaking of like the business aspect and everything, you're the announcer for like the Bulls, the Blackhawks, the Cubs as well. How are you even able to balance all of that, especially like all these days and all these games up in like for like 1 week, let's say?
Listen, my brain hates me because it's just so much. I just came off of finishing a week of, I think it was like 5 or 6 games in a row that I was at the United Center between Blackhawks and Bulls. And, it comes down to, just for me, to be able to turn the switch on the sport, right? As soon as that Bulls game is done, I'm done with that Bulls game. I'm on to the next, and those are the little things that I've been able to learn how to do. Again, it's not easy because there's times, and so on air I won't mess up, but there's times when I'm getting ready for a game, and the attire is different for both for Bulls and Blackhawks. So Blackhawks hockey is a more elegant sport. So you dress up a little bit more, dress shirt, tie sometimes, and the Bulls is laid back. It's basketball, right? So sometimes I'm getting ready for a Bulls game, but I'm in my mind I'm thinking I'm going to the Blackhawks, and I'm over here in a suit and tie and a shirt and tie, and I'm like, oh wait, I'm not going there, so I'm putting on a jacket, and so that's where my mind sometimes just doesn't click where I'm going. But other than that, on air when I'm broadcasting these games, I have the awareness to know what I'm doing, where I'm at. And so it's, at the end of the day, it's a skill and it's fun. I love what I do.
I mean, especially like for me, I would have to say I want to be like a play-by-play announcer, but more like on the soccer end, and maybe have Francisco as my right-hand man, as like the color commentator and everything
Yeah.
like that. So, I mean, there's like a lot of preparation. There's like a lot of things that you really have to know, like what's the player status, like what's their stats, how you able to, conduct all of that, and especially like having like 3 games per week is insane.
It is. And you have to, and again, I rely on my color analyst as well, because I know that they both know. I have one for Blackhawks and one for Bulls, and each one of them, they know what I need from them. So they're a big part of what I do. It's not by no means a one man show. It's a team, and it's great to have these guys, because that is just such an important part of what we do. Because my job is to paint the picture, right, and they put the finishing touches on that, right. That's what they add. They add that color to what I'm doing. So yeah, at the end of the day, yes, I do follow the teams, and I follow what they're doing when I'm not there. Like, for example, the Blackhawks, if they're away, I'm watching those games, right? I'm making sure that I'm aware of who scored, and if I can't watch the game, I'm following the game on my phone either way, so that I'm aware, right, and I know exactly what's going on.
And like in the beginning of your career, if I'm not mistaken, you started out with La Ley. And I
Yes.
remember exactly like La Ley. That used to be like one of the most popular radio stations ever here in Chicago area, in the Chicagoland area. And I would just like listen to it and everything. But I would never hear Miguel Esparza because I'm like, wait, is that Esparza? Is that a different person? And like I would always like as a kid listen to La Ley or La Que Buena, but like
Yeah.
more for La Ley. And just to see like these like radio personalities on growing and stuff, I was like, you know what? I want to be one of those one day. Did you ever even dream to become like a radio personality like this big, or was it just like something that you wanted to?
No, no, no. Again, when I was on La Ley, so throughout my radio career, I was El Miguelon. That was my on air. It was never Miguel Esparza until 2018. I decided that I wanted to brand my name, right? To make sure that my name was my brand. And if you go to Google right now and you Google Miguel Esparza, you'll find me, right? But if you Google Miguelon, you won't find me. So it was one of those things where I made sure that my name was the one that was in the forefront. Now, if you Google Miguelon, Chicago, add La Ley on there, then you're going to have a lot of stuff from me, right? But for me, it wasn't a dream. It wasn't something that I ever envisioned. However, when Lale first came on the scene, I loved it from the get go, and like you said, it was the most popular radio station in Chicago, and I was able to be part of the team that we were number one in the city, regardless of the language, and that was amazing. Every time we had the book that said we were number one, there was a mariachi in the studio. We were celebrating. and it was just a great time in my radio career. I was also part of a show called La Llorona. I used to host a show, and La Llorona, we used to have scary stories on air. People would call in and tell their scary stories, and that show for me, it was a big one too because it was number one regardless of language for a long time.
So it's also great that not only you're able to cover teams that really mean to a lot to a lot of people in Chicago, but you're also a Chicago native who really understands these teams and what they mean to a lot of people. So growing up in Humboldt Park, how was that like growing up in Humboldt Park, and how was your beginnings like?
Yeah, no, born and raised in Chicago. Proud to say that I was born and raised in the city of Chicago. Upbringing, obviously, you had the rough neighborhoods, right? And for example, I grew up on the west side of Chicago. West side of Chicago. Anytime it was hot outside, you knew that there was going to be gunshots and fights, and you always had to be aware of all that. So it was always tough. At the end of the day, I was very well grounded, very well. My parents did, I would say, a very good job with raising me and my siblings, because we never went into none of the gang banging or just everything else that was on the streets. And we were all focused on being able to excel and do good things with our lives. Now that I have a plan of what I wanted to do? Absolutely not. And I figured that out later on in my life, but it was something that I always made sure that I stayed away from violence. I would play a lot of basketball. I would definitely lean towards basketball, and I would get home from school, bring out the basketball rim, and we wouldn't go until 10 o'clock at night. So we were out in the alley playing basketball. So it was a big part of my life growing up in the city of Chicago.
Well, I don't know for sure if you're that tall, but were you able to dunk at all?
We didn't have the tall rim like
Oh, okay.
completely NBA, but yeah. So at that time, back when I was young and thinner, yes.
Before you got into the like getting more trajectory in the radio stations you had, you were at, if I remember correctly, also you were starting out, you did like you did promotions, you did production, a lot of different positions, and really tried to, if I understand like what you were going through, you really wanted to show you had versatility, to show you were valuable. And I believe that's a skill that people right now don't really understand or think they need. Because when I've talked to different people in the industry and they see my resume for what I've done personally, they say like, oh, you have a lot of versatility, you've done a little bit of everything. A lot of people's resumes aren't the same. They only stick to what they want to do, and that's it. They don't try to do a bunch of other stuff. Is that what you really were trying to do? Have the versatility? And right now, from what you've seen, people don't really do that anymore.
Yeah, well, listen, I wanted to be, I wanted to be that person that made it very difficult for a higher up to say, well, we need to make some cuts here. We're going to get rid of
Mm.
Miguel. I wanted to make sure that it was hard for them to decide to let me go. And that's why I learned everything from production to programming the station to the engineering side of it to the promotions department. I did it all. I've done everything that is to be done.
Mm.
I've ran a radio station on my own. I was general manager for a station in Mendota, and I was in charge of the whole operation. So at the end of the day, it all came down to that, to the fact that I knew once I went in there, because as a young kid, I started when I was 20, and when I was 20, I thought initially I was like, well, I'm going to be talent, right? That's what I want to do. I want to be talent, and I don't want to do anything else. But it was one of those things that when I got to Lale, I was like, okay, talent alone is not going to cut it. I need to make sure
Mm.
that I know the ins and out of a radio station, and that helped me stay there for a very long time.
And after the radio stations, you were able to actually work with another radio station. I believe it was Univision when you first got to do the Bears.
No, so I started doing the Bears with Lale back in
Okay, okay.
2014. Then I worked with Univision in 2000. I joined Univision in 2018, and
Mm.
that's when I started doing the Bulls. I came back to
Mm.
doing the Bears. I did, and that's when I used to fill in here and there for the Cubs games and the Blackhawks. So at Univision was my biggest opportunity because all the teams were on that station at the time that I
Mm.
joined. So it was one of those, like, it was the best platform for me and to be able to be where I'm at here today.
And were you able to get those opportunities covering the Bears and the Bulls before you got to the Cubs when you were doing those first shows and doing being a talent? How was the preparation like? Did you like say like I want to make sure I don't mess up. I want to really prepare spend as much time as I can?
Well, I've always wanted to be prepared, right? In anything that I do. However, it was different because it's all a learning curve. Once you continue to grow, you start learning different ways of preparation and what works for you, what
Mm,
works best for you, right? And what is it that helps you be the best broadcaster? I always want to be the best at what I do. So in order for me to do that, I have to learn what works for me and how to adapt the
mm,
different ways of doing things, but to my way, and make sure that I leave a mark as Miguel, right? And not as, oh, I remember this guy used to do the same thing that this other the guy used to do. No, I try to be unique in what I do and the way that I do my things.
mm,
That is most definitely
mm,
cool. And I think, having like an actual like broadcaster on the podcast is super, super great. I mean, that's the career that I'm trying to get into, especially like more because I have more knowledge of soccer. Well, actually, Francisco as well, we have more knowledge of soccer. But if we
Mm-hmm.
can like incorporate like other sports as well, we can definitely do it. And just to like hearing like your story and hearing like how everything just went is going pretty well for you, I would have to say. And we're gonna move on to the Bulls in a little bit, but actually I will say this, everyone. It was my first Bulls game ever. I never got to see the dynasty in the 90s. I don't know if you were able to see the dynasty in the 90s or how was that like?
I didn't see them live at the United Center, but I lived throughout those years and I
mm,
lived every championship and I watched every game in the playoffs and it was beautiful. It was one of those things that every game that I go to at the United Center, I look up to the left and I'm able to see those championship banners up there and I reflect, look at me, look at this. Like I'm a kid from Chicago, from the Humboldt Park area who went to Wells High School and here I am sitting at the United Center broadcasting for the Chicago Bulls. So it's very special.
So I know, speaking to when you were able to cover the Cubs, that I believe that the Cubs were a team that you have a special connection with. Can you speak to that connection that you had with the Cubs and how it felt to first cover them?
Yeah, for sure. For me, the Chicago Cubs, and it's all the teams in Chicago.
Mm,
However, the first professional game that I went to was the Chicago Cubs. My father took me there when I was younger, and just going there, and I remember the moment that I walked up and saw the field. I fell in love. I was mesmerized by it.
mm,
It was one of those moments where it was a very wow moment that I still remember
mm,
just going up the tunnel and seeing the field for me was just amazing. It was unbelievable. And be able now, I'll tell you this, and this is the crazy part about it. I don't remember my first broadcast for the Cubs. And
mm,
it sucks that I don't, but I think it was just a blur for me. That's why I don't remember it. But just being able to go and do that at Wrigley Field to this day, walk in there and it's the same deal. I get the same feeling every time I walk up and I look at the field. It's one of those where I'm super thankful, so blessed to be able to do what I do because again, I remember going to the games and I remember a seventh inning stretch looking up trying to see who was singing, who was the guest conductor
mm,
or just be enjoying that moment. And now I've had the opportunity to do that. I've had
mm.
the opportunity to conduct the seventh inning stretch, sing the national anthem at Wrigley Field. So very, very special for sure.
Has your dad been able to see you like when he's at the stadium, see you from afar, like broadcast games?
Yeah. So my father,
Mm,
my father has been able to go. My mother, my siblings, like anytime that I perform there as a singer for the national anthem or the seventh inning stretch, the Cubs are very, very good to me. Where they'll make
mm,
sure that my family has tickets to be able to be at the park and be there for me. So it's very special because again,
mm,
he would take me as a kid. Now I'm able to take him there, right? And that's just even more special when you're able to do
mm.
something like that.
Also wanted to touch on that. Most people when they hear that, oh, I'm able to cover the Bulls, the Blackhawks, and the Cubs, and I've been able to do all these things, and I'm able to cover the Cubs for a long time as well as the Bulls, and have my schedule really full that I'd be done, and that's all I'll do. And if I'm a sports fan, I'd be really fine with that. But then apart from that, you also do Grand Valley State. And then apart from that, you also are a news anchor, I believe. You like really never stop. Like your schedule is never done.
No, never. So I'm no longer a news anchor, but I was a news anchor at
Okay.
WBBM News Radio. However, I do have a daily Spanish sports talk show that is on 1200 a.m. from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So that's part
Mm.
of my daily routine, Monday through Friday. Yes, Grand Valley State University. There's times where I've left a Bulls game and driven, take the drive up to, it's about 2 hours and a half, stay there, wake up in the morning, get ready, broadcast the game, and drive right back and arrive at the United Center for the other Bulls game or a Blackhawks game.
Mm.
So it's the grind never stops, and it's one of those things that at the end of the day, I love what I do.
And also, if I could touch on that, have you like you've been able to achieve all these things, like seem to take me to the ball game into seventh inning and have a lot of success. But have you been also been able to grasp, like take up like think about like this is my reality, and also that I'm at the stage where I'm talking like to people like me and Augie, talking to different people, and also giving them advice, and also being like a role model, like some people aspire to be in your position.
I think about it all the time. Anytime I get to
Mm.
do something like that, I reflect on how blessed I am to be able to do what I do. And other than that, the other part of your question, yeah, I love to be able to share my knowledge, everything that I've gained throughout the years of broadcasting. I've been broadcasting since I was 20 years old. I'm now 43. I'll be 44 this year, God willing. And I've been broadcasting since I was 20 years old, so I've learned a lot. There's a lot that I've gone through. You have your highs and your lows, but at the end of the day, something that I always have with me is in life, either you are winning or you're learning. There's no losing, right? So you have to make sure that you take that mentality with you. And anytime I can share my story, I always say this: if I can inspire at least one person, then I'm doing something right. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to share that and help whoever I can in that sense. If my story inspires, I want to share that.
It's an incredible story for sure. And just
Mm.
wanted to touch it a little bit on Francisco's end. Like, we're trying our best to, like, I guess you can say, be like a role model to like so many people, and especially like where areas where they feel like they're like left out or they don't fit in and all that. So we want to bring that. We want to bring that awareness. We want to bring that, that challenge and say like, you know what, you can do this. No estás solo, no estás sola. Like as Francisco says, like you have to like keep up. You gotta keep going. You gotta keep going no matter what. And that's where I think, like, for most people, usually, I would have to say more with young people, they're kind of like losing that. So it's like, it's hard to have that mentality, but at the same time, it's up to you.
No, no, for sure. And I'll tell you, it's one of those things that if you want to be successful, you have to set first your goals. And after that, you have to set a plan for it. That plan might not work how you envisioned it. But at the end of the day, you have to be working towards
Mm.
going to that plan, right? And being able to reach that goal. And for me, I haven't finished, right? I've lived an amazing life. Again, like sometimes I say, joking around, if I were to die today, I've had an amazing life. I don't want to die, right? But
Mm.
but I'll be happy, right? Because I've been able to do things that people dream of. Listen, I in 2014 I covered the World Cup in Brazil, and I sat at
Wow.
Maracanã Stadium, and I looked up, and I was
Yeah.
like, there was a moment where I just sat there, and I looked up, and I was like, wow, I'm really here. Like
Mm.
how many people around the world would love to have my seat, right? And it was just mesmerizing. I was in Brazil. I was
Mm.
looking up, I was looking around, and I was like, this is unreal. There I was, right? The kid from Chicago, and it was just based on the hard work and everything, all the dedication that
Mm.
I've put in.
Yeah, and also speaking to that, like it's also incredible to see like a Latino being in a position of success and being able to achieve a lot of things. People always say there's a line that maybe there is one that exists where Latinos or the minorities are overlooked. But like you said, like yourself is the only one that's stopping you to go over that line. And look at all the success you've achieved. Like, why can't someone else achieve that?
No, for sure. Look at again. Just look at what I've done and say, listen, I can do this too. If Miguel was able to do it, why not me, right? And
Mm.
at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Just go out there, chase your dream, work hard for it, be dedicated to it, be disciplined. I think the most important word that you can take from this today is discipline. And if you have that discipline for what you're working towards, it's gonna take you a long way.
I want to say that like my next question will be when's the next time I can get a ticket to a Bulls game or something?
It's crazy because a lot of people do think that I have access to tickets,
Mhm.
but here's the thing: I don't work for the team, so that's where it
Mhm.
where it becomes tricky, right? I work for a company called Latino Media Network. And so we provide that service to the teams in the sense of the broadcast. But if I ever do come across some tickets, I'll let you know.
He's gonna get us tickets, that's for sure.
And also wanted to touch being able to do a lot of Spanish broadcasting for like also like Blackhawks. Like I know myself, I don't really watch a lot of hockey, but being able to do Spanish broadcasting for a lot of different sports, is that also like something that you feel a lot of joy, like being able to bring those sports to communities who wouldn't maybe necessarily watch it and in Spanish so they also understand it?
Yeah, no, that's very important. Great question, because I
Mhm.
think that for the Blackhawks, for hockey itself, the organization, they want to be out in the Latino community. They want to expand the sport, and the NHL as a whole, not just the Blackhawks. They know the importance. I actually had an interview not too long ago with the commissioner of the NHL, and we spoke about that, like what how important is the Latino community to the NHL, and the words he said, they're a vital part of who we are. They know the importance of the Latinos, and they want to spread the sport of hockey, and it's a beautiful sport. I'll tell you, like it's exhilarating, the adrenaline. It's a masterpiece on the ice. So for those that don't know the sport, I would recommend start watching a couple of games here and there, and you're gonna fall in love with that sport. And if you go live to a game, then you'll definitely fall in love with the sport.
So continuing on this episode, everybody, we are super, super glad to have Miguel Esparza. At first, I was like, wait, should I call him Miguelito or should I call him Miguelón? So I was like a little confused on that. So, but yes, it's confirmed. It's Miguelon. Moving on. It was my first ever Bulls game. Francisco was there a couple of times at the UC. The last time that I went to the UC was about, oh my gosh, I would have to say like 2008. But that was because when I was a kid, I would have like these friends from a Catholic school, and we would go see Disney on Ice. And that was like
Nice.
the last time that I
Mhm.
went to the UC. I mean,
Mhm.
not so long ago or just recently, we had the Derrick Rose retirement, and that was just something like big. And they even mentioned it at the career fair that we went to. So I mean, this is like something big for sure for the Chicago Bulls, because I mean, having a dynasty back in the 90s and then trying to revamp the dynasty a little bit, even though the Bulls need
Mhm.
to work on something on my end, because I don't know much about basketball. I don't know if Francisco knows a little bit about it. But I think the Bulls need to work on something either, because there have been speculations like they're gonna trade Zach LaVine.
All the Chicago teams are going through a rough patch right now, and I know that at some point they're going to have to get it together. But at the end of the day, going to a Bulls game, going to a Blackhawks game, the
Mhm.
entertainment value at the United Center is just amazing, right? And then going to Wrigley Field, historic Wrigley Field since 1914. You talk about the cathedral of baseball, and so we have good things here in the city of Chicago. However, on the field or on the court, on the ice, the product isn't the best right now. But I know we'll get there at some point. I know the big rumor was that Neymar was talking with Chicago Fire. So I'm sure you
Oh,
guys are excited about that.
I thought they were gonna do the trio at Miami with Messi, Suarez, Neymar, but yeah, it'd be crazy to have Neymar in Chicago. Like I just
Even I
literally
would
can
be
wait to
interested.
see
See,
Neymar.
I don't like soccer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to break your hearts, but I'm not
Oh,
I'm not a soccer guy. I've never
mm,
been. The only time I do watch soccer is during
mm,
World Cup. So for me to be able
yeah.
to go to Brazil and cover the World Cup, that was just amazing, a dream come true. I would
Mm,
watch these games with my father where he was working at the shop mechanic, and I would
mm,
watch the World Cup. Anytime the World Cup came around, we'd watch the games, right? And so for
mm.
me, that was real big. However, I don't follow the sport. But I read Neymar, and I was like, man, I'd go to
Mm.
watch Neymar here at wherever they play.
But I also wanted to touch on, yeah, like speaking to our experience at the Bulls game. Yeah, it was crazy. Like if I was able to see like Michael Jordan or Scottie
Yeah,
Pippen or Dennis Rodman and be able to see like spoken to other people and they say that it was like a dream come true to see them and I like tell them, was Michael Jordan really that good? And they're like, yeah, there was no doubt. Like being able to jump that high and just seeing those banners, like it was crazy. And also I think it was also like the connection with the fans, like everyone's really cool. And I know like during that game specifically, that everyone was having fun with. I don't know how old he is, but it was like a little kid, like
yeah.
going crazy, and I don't know if you saw that again, like in the with a little kid who was just dancing, and then
that they
every
put him
time
up
it
on
was
the. Oh
like the
yeah, yeah,
halftime.
yeah. It
Yeah.
happens a lot where usually they'll find a kid, and when a kid's doing like
Mhm.
dancing, or sometimes they'll put a kid who's flexing, or he's just showing off from the kid, they'll
Mhm.
bring him back every time, and people just eat
Mhm.
it up. It's great. Again, that's why I say it's so fun, right? To be able to have that kind of entertainment, regardless of the product on the court. They
Mhm.
do an amazing job, both Blackhawks and Bulls, to put on that entertainment for the moment that you're there. You enjoy from beginning to end. And if they win, it's a bonus.
The things that Benny does is always incredible. Like I heard someone say that he always makes the halftime, the half court shot. But yeah, I think Benny's always crazy. It's always good to see Benny.
Yeah, that's always cool, and that has an incentive because there's a promotion attached to it. So that's why
Mhm.
people are always excited. If he makes it, you get free wings the next day. So that's
Mhm.
always fun, right? So I'm always waiting to scan that QR code if he does make it, because I want my wings the next day.
But just to see like how Benny made that half court shot, I was amazed.
Mhm.
Like the fact, like
Yeah,
yeah, the Bulls like mascot
half
Mhm.
court and facing backwards, right? It wasn't a straight shot.
Mhm.
and facing backwards. That was insane though. Like just looking at it and just like observing, I was like, wow, this mascot just has everything, and especially like the entertainment
Mhm.
with the
Yep.
kid on, showing up on the jumbotron. It was just hilarious. Everybody was like, "We want
Mhm.
the kid, we want the kid." And we
Mhm.
were just wondering after, like, because we had to leave early that day, we were just wondering, I don't know if they ever like got pictures with the kid or if they were interviewing the kid. I don't even know what happened after.
Mhm.
Well, we don't know what happened afterwards because we left early, but I'm pretty sure he's now a famous star.
Yeah, no, they just kept showing him throughout the game. And they do
Mhm.
that again. Like they'll pick out a fan who shows off on camera, and they'll have him on, and people eat it up. It's cool. The other day at the Blackhawks game, there was this guy who had ice cream, and he showed, or the girl had ice cream, or vice versa.
Mhm.
One pointed towards the camera because they were on the screen, and knocked over the ice cream. So everyone at the stadium was like, no, and then
Mhm.
finally, Tommy Hawk, which is the Blackhawks mascot, came with some ice cream and brought him some ice cream for the one that he dropped. So there's always something fun happening at the United Center, regardless if it's the Blackhawks or the Bulls.
What was also good is that the Bulls won that night, 138 to 105. And I don't know if it's just me or I'm giving good luck charm
Mhm.
vibes because every
Well,
single
you got to be there every game from here on out because we're losing.
because I feel like every single game that I go to, it's like they win. It's like, say for an example, like if I were to go like a Hawks game, which I haven't been to, but I will plan
Yeah.
on doing it soon for sure. Let's say it's like the Hawks against like the Predators. It's just as an example. The Hawks would
Mhm.
probably win because I'm there. It's kind of like I'm having like this good luck charm for like Chicago teams. Like if I go to their game, they're definitely gonna win. And then there's
Well,
just
we
been
need
like
you at we need you in every
Mhm.
stadium, every ballpark, because they're going through a rough patch right now.
Yeah, you should have gone to one of the Bears games.
Yeah, man, you should have gone to all
oh,
of them.
I should have
They're
gone to the
terrible.
Bears games, that's for sure. Like surprisingly for sure, like the Bears beating the Packers after like snapping the 11 game losing streak,
Mhm.
like that was just insane. And especially in Lambeau Field. Obviously it's not that easy. Well, on my
I
personal
didn't celebrate it. That was win
Mhm.
number 5 in the season. I don't care who you faced. If you only win
Mhm.
5 games, you don't get to celebrate. I'm sorry to be the party pooper.
But to do that at Lambeau Field,
Oh
slapping
no, for
the
sure, for
game
sure.
losing streak, that was insane. That was crazy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was telling like some of my colleagues, because they're huge Bears fans, I was like, at one point I thought they were gonna miss it, and they were just kept going on me like, why would you
Yeah,
say
it was so close. He
it?
almost missed it.
And so we were just going back and forth and back and forth. Speaking like on the Blackhawks for sure, Connor Bedard
Mhm.
climbs up and reaches like to 100 NHL points, and that's insane. Like a kid that you
Mhm.
drafted in the first round, I feel like he's gonna be one of those players that's gonna be like either like I guess you could say the captain Jonathan Tays or Patrick Sharp or like these former Blackhawks players that did it back in the 2010s.
Yeah, listen, Connor Bedard is a special player. Like he really is. To be able to see Connor and the development that he's gone through right now, there's so much growth
Mhm.
still there. So it's exciting to see him now, and again, first teenager since Connor McDavid to get to those 100 points fastest. So it's great to see. And you're talking about we're witnessing the development, the growth, the future star of Chicago sports, and again, I know that at some point Connor Bedard and those Blackhawks are going to be racing the Stanley Cup, and I'm there for it 100%.
Yeah, it's crazy to see Like he's only 19. Like it's crazy to think that he's only
Kid.
19 and able to achieve something like this. Like you said, it's the development of a star for Chicago sports. Like we saw it in Michael Jordan at the Bulls. We saw it at Messi and Barcelona, like different situations. And being able to have someone like that in your team is a blessing. And hopefully he brings a lot of joy for Chicago fans and just for hockey fans as a whole to see someone in the NHL do something so special.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's very special to be there and witness it in person.
But like just like going back to like the Neymar, I feel like it's gonna
Mhm.
be unlikely for sure, especially like I think there's like gonna be like money talks for sure. But if they were to able to bring Neymar to the Chicago Fire, I'm pretty sure like the seating and the tickets would be
Oh yeah.
sold out because it's
So it'd
Neymar.
be like
Again,
Miami where
I
each seat
would
is five
go.
thousand dollars.
I would definitely go. You know, it's
Um,
one of those things that you're gonna attract the non actual fan, just the casual. I know Neymar from Brazil, right? I know him from the World Cup, and you know the ability. That's what you're gonna draw, and if they're able to do that, I think that'd be great for the city of Chicago.
With like the World Cup coming up next summer, I've been trying to tell this to everybody. I'm just trying to get tickets for the World Cup for next year because it's now at home. Now it's gonna be ours,
Wow.
like, basically all of North America, and I'm just trying to go with Francisco. We're trying to live that experience. So I mean, you lived it with the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, so we just want to be there to experience that because this is like a huge event for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a party, and again, you know, anytime you talk about World Cup soccer, it's top of the line, you know, and it's a different beast, but it's fun for sure.
We've
So
been
do
yeah,
everything
like
to be
what?
able to be there.
we've been debating
Yeah, like what?
between
Yeah,
Francisco and I. We've been debating so much. He's a true Mexico fan. I'm not. So long story short on
and I
that.
don't know why.
I'm sorry. Tengo mis raíces, pero el equipo no tan,
Uh,
no tan bien. I mean, I'm just being for real.
And it's valid for sure.
But I was also gonna say like the World Cup is a different animal. It is crazy. Like when you said that I was able to be at the World Cup in 2014, like my heart dropped. Like I'm super jealous you're able to be at Maracanã, and like seeing like the emotions of like it's a tournament where it's not like a league where it's just like one country being able to celebrate that different people from one country, but it's a World Cup with a lot of different people from different backgrounds, di different situations, and just being able to express themselves in the way they want to. Like I know in the World Cup in Qatar, there's no like alcohol allowed, I believe, in Qatar. But I know like some Mexicans brought it anyways. They like dressed in donkey costumes, like just expressing themselves how they express themselves partying. So I just think it's a crazy event. And yeah, me and Agir are hoping to be there, hoping to maybe even if the chance permits itself, like Dios quiera or like something like that, we were able to cover it in a professional level, like even if it's working the camera. Like I just think it'd be a crazy situation.
No, for sure. Best of luck to you guys, and always, you know, keep fighting, keep working to be able to reach those goals because again, you're gonna have it so close. You know, you have to work towards that for sure.
And moving on just a little bit quickly with the
Mhm.
Chicago Cubs, the former Brewers pitcher Colin Ria signed and agreed to terms. There's like been a lot of like controversy, a lot of like
Mhm.
arbitration and all that, but I feel like the Cubs already got him.
You know, it's been an interesting offseason for the Cubs.
Mhm.
Colin Ray is here. He's going to be a part of the rotation. You have Kyle Tucker signing with the Cubs, free agent. They just reached an agreement, avoiding
Mhm.
arbitration. So, you know, at least you have him locked down in that sense. It's going to be interesting to see if they're going to extend him or not. I don't think they will. But I still think they're going to do something else before the start of the season. Chicago Cubs are. So I'm hoping that we get another arm, whether it be bullpen or for the rotation. So it should be a fun season. Expectations, I don't know if they're super high for the team. I think they will be a little bit better than last year. So it's going to be interesting to say the least. But I'll tell you something. You anytime you can go to Wrigley, it doesn't matter how the team is doing. It's magical to be able to be at Wrigley and take part in that beautiful tradition of baseball itself. At Wrigley Field, you know, nothing compares to it. So it's a beautiful thing. So I'd say, regardless of what they do here moving forward, go enjoy a game at Wrigley this year.
I was gonna say I'm a Sox fan personally, but I'm just crossing my fingers that
I
hopefully
gotta
that both
go.
teams.
Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Yeah,
Now,
we don't talk
well,
socks on this podcast, at least when
uh,
I'm here.
Well, I'm just hoping both teams in Chicago are successful. Like it'd be, I don't know if this ever happened, but hopefully like both teams are able to go against each other in the World Series. I don't know if that's ever happened, but I think it'd be a
It,
dream
it
for
happened early
Chicago.
1900s. It
Yeah.
did. I'll tell you, it sucks. It sucks to have, the that
Mm.
losing culture. White Sox are projected to lose over 100 games again this year, which is
Mm.
terrible for the fan base, terrible for the city of Chicago. And I really wish that they do something to change that, and hopefully they do it soon.
We're both
But
Sox fans,
also,
crazy,
You're
and
a Sox fan too?
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sad.
you're surrounded by Sox fans.
Man,
I've been
time to
saying
go.
multiple times. I've been saying it multiple times. Jerry Reisendorf needs to sell the team. Like all of us Sox fans for sure. So some people may disagree with me on this, but Jerry Reisendorf needs to sell the team now. Like
Long time ago.
it should have been a long time ago. I don't know exactly what they're waiting for, or I don't know what he's waiting for. But to have like an embarrassing season like you did this past season in 2024, to go 121, breaking the all-time record losing streak ever. Like it's just embarrassing, honestly.
And don't forget the year before you lost 101. So think about it. You're at 101, 120. What is it? 121. And this year again, they're projected to lose over 100 games. So it's definitely embarrassing. It's definitely bad for the fans and bad for the city of Chicago. It's something that change and it needs to change soon.
Yeah, speaking to Ray, real quick, like I saw like with the San Diego Padres, he does have a history of being injured.
Listen,
Yeah, I saw he has yeah.
I get injuries and it happens, and a lot of the times you just hope for the rehab to be 100% right. You hope for them a change of scenario will help them out and have a successful season, and not because of the team, but as the human being, right? You always wish these players well, and that's something that at the end of the day you hope for, right? And you hope that they do, come out and have a successful season.
Folks, fans, and everybody else that are not Sox fans, ugh, I know. It's just we're just living in hell. I'm gonna say we're just living in hell with this team, with this owner. Kind of reminds me of my Carolina Panthers team. The owner that we have is just completely a disgrace. But we've reached the this part of the episode where it's the final reflection, and I want to dedicate this final reflection with Miguel Esparza over here because one of the things that we've been mentioning on this podcast is pursuing your dreams. And like, we're trying to like motivate, inspire a las generaciones que vienen más adelante, or de hecho ya están aquí. And, we just want to say like you have to pursue your dreams, whether you're a college
Mm-hmm.
student, whether you identify as like non-binary or whatever you identify as, you can pursue your dreams no matter what. It could be as a broadcaster, it could be as a color commentator, even as a singer as well. And, nomás tienes que echarle ganas because, at the end of the day, you have to worry
Yep.
about yourself. You have to worry about, what's right for you y todo. Lo que yo creo para mis hermanos latinos es crecer en grande, ser grande, y ir hacia arriba porque yo sé que ustedes pueden.
No lo podría
Yeah,
decir
also.
mejor yo. Échenle ganas. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I was also gonna say like similar to what Agi's saying, like siempre necesitas echarle ganas. Like I didn't start like right now for what I'm doing right now, being able to be a sports journalist and cover events and interview athletes, which is what I want to do. Being able to do pitch side. I originally started like when my first job was working in warehouses, and I did that starting in high school. And I mean, like in high school and then all the way up to college, like every break, in my Christmas breaks, Thanksgiving break was working in warehouses, helping the family, and that's what you have to do. Like there's situations and where you have to help the family and be able to pay those bills. But then like we were saying in the beginning, like taking every opportunity that you can so you can improve, and you're not gonna get that role that you want right away. You really have to echarle ganas, pica piedra, and really get to where you want. It'll take time, but always persevering, knowing you'll get there, and knowing you'll go over that line and reach your dreams.
Absolutely. And be disciplined while you do it.
Everybody, quiero dar las gracias, muchísimas gracias, Miguelón Esparza for coming on the next chapter of Sports Podcast. Great to see that we have an actual radio personality, well, a radio broadcaster as well on this podcast. Gracias por estar aquí for sure.
A ustedes, muchas gracias por la invitación. And to all your listeners, thank you so much. Again, my name is Miguel Esparza. Follow me on socials as Miguel's Voice. You'll find me there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's a pleasure to talk with you and hear your experiences, of your advice. I'm a little sad that you're both not a big soccer fan and also a Cubs fan, but just great to have you on the podcast. And yeah, and I look forward to hearing more of your podcast and hopefully the Chicago teams do better.
Sounds good. Thank you. Pleasure.
We definitely need to get another championship here in Chicago. It doesn't matter if it's Cubs, White Sox. Well, White Sox may never happen. I'm just gonna say down the line, hopefully for another 100 years or whatever. But hopefully, like for Bulls, Hawks, and most definitely, yeah, basically for Bulls and Hawks and all Chicago teams, we desperately need a championship after the great 2010s that lived with us. Now we're basically at a different era, so the 2020s we have to get it going.
Absolutely.
So without further ado, you guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in on the next chapter of Sports Podcast. And remember that the next chapter of sports will live on today, tomorrow, and forever. Y recuerden que el próximo capítulo de deportes seguirá hoy, mañana y siempre. Thank you so much, you guys. We will see you guys next time here on the next chapter of Sports Podcast.
Lo vemos.